It's October 4th, 2024, and I've got an update here that should carry us through the weekend as we have several things to talk about. Of course, first of all, let's update you on our hurricanes and tropical storms that we have in the Atlantic Basin. Right now, we've got a major Hurricane Kirk, and by the time you're watching this, probably Hurricane Leslie out here in the main development region. Both of these are either going to be or are currently our strongest storms of the season. The good news is they're not really affecting anyone right now, and we'll talk more about where they're going right here in a moment. But before we get into that, we have an unfortunate update from Weather Fatalities. This is Elijah's account where he's keeping up with all of the news that's coming in from all these areas that were devastated by Hurricane Helene. We are now over a death toll of 216. Hundreds still remain missing. 101 of those came from North Carolina alone. And that's where most of the people are still missing as well. Some really remote areas in North Carolina. There's some places where people really haven't been reached yet. If you're unfamiliar with the Appalachian Mountains, there are things called haulers, and some of those places are just never going to be reachable by roads again, at least not in the near future. And we've only got so many helicopters out there. So that's what's happening right now. The situation is really unfortunate in North Carolina. And unfortunately, I do think that that number is going to continue to rise. I do want to thank you once again to everybody that's went over to the y'allsquad.org and donated to our nonprofit organization. The Y'all Squad's been working our butts off to help as many people as possible. We've delivered tens of thousands of dollars worth of communications equipment, such as Starlink terminals, to some really remote areas in the Asheville, North Carolina zone. We've also sent in several truckloads of supplies from our warehouse and from stores in the general area. I've lost count of how many trucks that we've sent in, and we've actually got guys down there right now handing out stuff to people who need it most. The Y'all Squad's presence will be in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida in some capacity for the foreseeable future. I don't know when we're going to leave or when we'll be done down there. The cleanup process and the recovery process is going to take a lifetime, as I've said before. So if you want to help us continue to do what we've been doing, please go to the y'allsquad.org and make a tax-deductible contribution. Okay, so getting back into the forecast here, this is what Hurricane Kirk looks like right now, and this is tropical storm, soon to be Hurricane Leslie. Hurricane Kirk last night looked like a Category 5 hurricane. It was probably the strongest storm that we've had all year. Leslie will probably follow suit. Let's turn on the tracks here. You can see both of them are going in the same direction. They're following this path of least resistance, kind of recurving out to sea. Currently, Hurricane Kirk has 144 miles per hour winds. It's Category 4, wind gusts up to 173 miles per hour, and it is rocketing up to the north. And eventually, this is going to be a tropical storm just off the coast of France, and the storm will impact places like Paris and London in the near future with some strong winds and lots of heavy rainfall. So this is actually going to be an impactful storm over in Europe. For the most part, it's not going to impact anybody during its strongest phase. Right now, it's not even going to do much to Bermuda or any sort of islands out here, so that's good news. Now, like I said, Tropical Storm Leslie is a tropical storm right now, but as early as 2 p.m. tomorrow, this is going to be a Category 1 hurricane, and then we do expect it to be a Category 2 hurricane as early as 2 a.m. October 7th. And I think that because it's taking the same path essentially as Hurricane Kirk, it'll probably undergo some rapid intensification and also become a major hurricane before all is said and done. And there's a pretty good chance that this is also going to take the same path and curve out to sea here as well. Now, those aren't our only areas of interest right now. We still have this pesky storm in the Gulf that's trying to make us think that it's going to turn into some sort of tropical system. Right now, it's still very much in the air. It's just as uncertain as it was a week ago when we first started talking about it, but we do have a 40% probability from the National Hurricane Center for a storm to try to become a tropical depression, at least here in the Gulf of Mexico over the next 7 days. Let's look at the latest progression of the storm on the GFS. It is pretty unorganized, not a lot going on down there other than a significant amount of moisture coming up into the Gulf Coast areas. We've talked about this for several days now. Not a lot has changed here, except for the fact that because I guess there's a little bit of a better chance that we're going to see some sort of organization down here in the form of a very weak tropical depression or maybe just a tropical low, there is actually an increased concern in the amount of rain that we're going to see in the Florida Peninsula. Just look, the heaviest rain really starts on Sunday, October 6th, and then we're going to see that continue for the foreseeable future. And as I like really heavy rain all the way through October 8th and 9th. And then we're going to have lingering heavy rain all the way through October 12th, it seems, before we get any sort of break. And then even after the break, we are still going to be dealing with heavy rain intermittently in Florida through the beginning of next week. So, the flash flooding risk is actually pretty high down here in the Florida Peninsula over the next little bit. So make sure you're keeping an eye on those waterways if you live in a flood prone area. But what isn't high, in my opinion, is the risk of a strong hurricane or tropical storm. Worst case scenario is this organizes into a tropical depression or a low end tropical storm, and it kind of causes a little bit more in the way of problems with wind and some storm surge, but it's not going to be anything crazy. Outside of that, another interesting thing to watch is a cold front that's going to be coming down from the north on Sunday, and this is going to start an interesting pattern for us, bringing in some much cooler air into the Great Lakes region, and then that cold air is going to settle in through a lot of the East Coast as we go into next week. It's going to feel quite chilly up there in the Northeast, and in fact, we've got several chances of snow the farther north and east you go. And then it's just going to feel like fall. It's going to feel like a cool and dreary kind of fall stretch for a lot of us here, and just cool, I guess, in the Southeast, not quite as dreary for an extended period of time. And while we are dealing with this cool weather in the East Coast, a huge ridge is going to be building back here in the West, and this is going to be one of the more impressive ridges that we've seen this year. If this happened in the middle of summer, we'd have a deadly heat wave on our hands. What's happening since this is occurring in fall is we've just got a heat wave on our hands, and you're going to feel it, and this is going to have major implications on our weather pattern as we go forward. First of all, the ridge is going to set up another situation where we have little disturbances that are going to try to slide down through the north central U.S. down into the Ohio Valley, similar to what we had back in June and July, and that is going to allow for some more cool bursts of air to make it in, and it's also going to allow for some instances of severe weather. I think we've got to watch these systems here as we go into Sunday, October 13th, which is way down the road. Things could change a lot, but this will bring about some thunderstorms and also snow in Colorado and New Mexico. It wouldn't be very surprising to see a significant amount of snow in some parts of New Mexico as we go into the latter part of next week. And then, of course, everywhere else along that boundary, we have to watch out for some isolated thunderstorms. And then the farther we go into October, the more intense those cold pushes become. And this is where fall really starts to settle in, and we're going to end up seeing snow chances much farther south. I think as we approach the latter part of October, we might have some surprise snow to talk about, for a lot of people in late October, I think. Here's a look at that temperature anomaly map. Watch that little area of cool air really set in across the east. This is, below average temperatures. We're going to be dealing with this all next week. Additionally, watch the huge bubble of extremely warm air over here in the west, and that's really going to compile and become, honestly, like a really impressive heat wave as we go into Friday, October 11th. Some places will be nearly 40 degrees above average. That's wild. The good news is, in October, average is kind of cool up here in South Dakota and North Dakota, so it's not going to melt your face off, but it will definitely be noticeable. It's not going to feel like October up here during this massive ridge and heat wave that we're going to be dealing with. And then, like I was saying earlier, when these cold fronts really start coming through, we've got to watch out for the snow in the higher elevations of the Rockies, probably a significant amount, and then also storms. Anywhere where that cool air is meeting up with the warm air, I think we're going to have multiple chances of severe weather in that region. And then we're going to have multiple different instances of this as we go towards the end of October. 6 to 10 day temperature outlook looks very similar to what we just observed. We've got above average temperatures, much above average temperatures in the west, a little bit below average in the east. We'll probably, if we were looking at like a 12 to 20 day temperature outlook, we would see those below average temperatures kind of also come back up in here, and then the above average temperatures would settle more back into the west as those cold shots are going to become way more prevalent after next week. And then we've got much below average precipitation for the vast majority of us here in the east and central U.S. We're a little bit above average over here in the west and a lot above average in the peninsula of Florida, but everybody else is experiencing a very dry period here. And you can see that on the total rainfall over the next week. Most of us are not going to see a drop of rain, all right? In fact, you guys in Illinois, the little rain that you are going to get is happening right now, but the vast majority of the rainfall is going to be falling over here in the Florida Peninsula, where some places will potentially see 7 to 10 inches of rain over the next 7 days. So keep that in mind if you live in a flood-prone area. Once again, we're going to be updating you, hopefully not until next week. Right now, there's no major developments, but make sure that you subscribe to the channel and turn notifications on just in case. Additionally, if you haven't already and you'd like to help us with our efforts in the Appalachians and points south and east with our Hurricane Helene recovery efforts, please go over to the y'allsquad.org and make a tax-deductible contribution to our 501c3 nonprofit organization. There's a link in the description. Thank y'all for giving us the opportunity to do this, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye. Ooh.